everybody. Welcome to Listeners Beware, a podcast about all things Goosebumps. My name is Gary.
I'm Ashley.
And today we are talking about book number 20.
What? This is book number 20 already?
Book number 20.
Well, here we are with book 20, The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, first published in 1994. I believe this was also a spring book, May of 94.
I believe so, yeah. Beautiful artwork by Tim Jacobus, as usual. And the plot synopsis for this is, they're alive. Jody loves visiting her grandparents' farm. Okay, so it's not the most exciting place in the world. Still, Grandpa tells great, scary stories. And Grandma's chocolate chip pancakes are the best. But this summer, the farm has really changed. The cornfields are sparse. Grandma and Grandpa seem worn out. And the single scarecrow has been replaced by 12 evil-looking ones. Then one night, Jody sees something really odd. The scarecrows seem to be moving, twitching on their stakes, coming alive.
So you might say we have 12 angry straw men.
Off to a great start.
Woo! You mentioned the cover, and I really want to discuss the cover first.
Let's.
Because I love the cover. I have loved it since I was a kid, and it was first released many moons ago. Speaking of moons, love the full moon on the cover.
Yep. I thought you might.
I might a little bit. I might a lot. So, yeah, this is Tim Jacobus always nails the covers. Let's just be honest. Yeah. He just spot on. Goosebumps isn't Goosebumps without Tim Jacobus, in my opinion.
Agreed.
And hand in hand, the cover art goes really well with the story, but I especially love the cover art on this one because you have one scarecrow, but it's front and center. It's got like red lighting coming from somewhere in the front. So already we have like the ominous, but then you still have the Goosebumps green and then that full moon with like the purplish background. I just love it.
Beautiful. Yeah. And it's kind of angled up like a child's perspective, which I think is a nice touch.
Yes, like a kid looking up at the scarecrow. Absolutely. And I love that, you have Field of Dreams and then the cover says Field of Screams. You know me, I love the puns and the play on things.
It's a good pun.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
So it's a Field of Screams, which, actually trips me back to the Deep Trouble one because we're like, ooh, that feels very Jaws-like. I wonder if they're playing on it. Then we look at this one and they're playing on Fields of Dreams and it's like, they were probably playing on Jaws, which is fun.
Yeah.
It's a little love note, a little nod to it, and I like it.
And as a love note, I love it.
As a love note, we love it. It's a very basic, simple, but effective love note.
Yes.
He's got a whole lot going on in terms of shading and the use of highlight with colors and light source. I mean, if you look at the hot spot on the back of, we're going to get nerdy for a moment, but if you look at the hot spot on the back of the scarecrow's arm and the back of his waist that's coming from the full moon, like our boy Tim Jacobus knows his lighting.
True that.
He knows lighting techniques. He knows how to make it pop. So there is a sense of realism in this, very cartoony kind of image just from his use of highlighting alone. And I dig it. I mean, even the stars are different brightness levels and different halos around the stars. So now I'd also like to throw a little spoiler in here that although RL was releasing these every month, I don't think he was writing them every month because this was released in May of 94. But if you look very closely at the cover, it says T. Jacobus 93.
Oh, interesting.
Methinks he had a list already, and maybe this is, RL had years of archive, and they're just like, let's run with it. We're going to release it every month. He had a bunch in the can, and off they went.
Yeah, that's entirely possible.
So here we are. We've been kind of ragging on him a bit, but it's like, there's just that little hint alone. I think there was a bit more planning in this that we initially thought. So
Does that make the bad books better or worse then? That's the real question.
it makes them worse.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Who knows? Because if this was something where he had just an archive
Mhm.
of stories that he had written, perhaps there were some he didn't even revisit, or he gave to his editor and is like, here you go, do what thou will.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, push through. Someone might have been sleeping on the job where it's like, hey, take a peek at this, edit it, make sure it's all good. And maybe they didn't.
Mm. Man, that's a good catch though, that 93. I didn't even see that.
Makes me want to go back actually
Yeah.
and look at the other covers and see like what years are they saying
Yeah.
on there, because
Mhm.
interesting.
Very
The things that make you go,
Oh, I'm definitely humming.
I'm humming. So we've got Jody and Mark, and they're visiting their grandparents on a farm because their parents like to give them a little dose of reality, get them away from the screens, which, that was in 94. Here we are in 2024, still fighting that uphill battle of screen time.
Right.
So, except now there are more screens.
Yes, so many more screens. Everything's a screen. I'm a screen.
Everything. Yeah, well, it's all a screen.
It's true.
It's all one simulation. And now we're in 3 Haunted Junior. So, Jody and Mark go to their parents' house. I like that we open up at the station that they're being picked up at, and Stanley, the farmhand, is picking them up. I'm going to be honest. I loved this story back then. I love it now because they incorporate all of the things that I go dorky over. So for me, I'm a big fan of train stations and trains. I would love at some point to take a train across the U.S. In theory, that sounds fun. In reality, it probably wouldn't be so exciting. But, they're on a train station. They're getting picked up. And then it also incorporates my other favorite thing, cornfields.
Oh, I thought you were going to say farmhands.
Well, have you seen those hands?
They're very farmy.
They're very farmy. They're very firm.
But no,
so
yes, cornfields.
Cornfields.
Love that.
What about you? Do you like scarecrows, cornfields?
I love the setting and the feeling of this book overall. Like the vibe is just perfect. This is a nice reset after several swings and misses. Like it actually feels like a horror story, and I love the descriptive nature of this book.
2000%. I feel like whoever wrote this story, just kidding. I feel like RL really understood farms, cornfields, outdoor nature stuff, because it shows like the way they describe it, the way he takes time with those scenes is just, it's spot on. I really liked it.
Yeah.
As a kid, I was obsessed with the film series, Children of the Corn. And those are so campy and awful films. And yet I love them. Even to this day, I will rewatch them. And I'm like, these are so terribly, terribly awesome, or terrible and awesome. I haven't decided. Awesomely terrible.
Yes.
I don't know. But they're just, I can't resist them. Maybe I need to do like a past life regression, why I connect with cornfields so much. But a lot of people, when those films came out, would be driving across the U.S. and they'd actually be creeped out by cornfields and not want to stop in those towns because of those movies. For me, if I passed one by, I'm like, ooh, I want to go in there. And again, don't know what my affinity is with them, but I also love scarecrows. So always have.
Yeah. I do too. I love the design of a scarecrow. I used to have a little one that lived outside the house named Fred. Also, I name most inanimate objects Fred. That's just a Gary thing. But Fred the Scarecrow, he's very cute.
I like Henry.
Henry's good. Yeah. Henry's a little more proper than Fred.
Yeah, Theodore. So I'm just saying, like, I like very proper names for things.
Yes.
We had a roly-poly pet at some point. And that's a long story, but we had a roly-poly pet we named Henry. So We ended up putting Henry back outside because I'm like, I don't think it's kind to keep Henry indoors, even if you give him leaves and branches and stuff. So we put Henry back out.
Oh. And Henry thrived. Yeah.
Henry
I
thrived.
loved the name Fred until I met a guy named Fred, and then I was mostly confused.
Mm.
I was like, this is a people name?
This is a people name? I love that. This is a people name? I mean, didn't you watch the Flintstones?
I did, but he's not a real people.
Wilma. Oh my gosh. Barney.
Yep.
See, I feel like that's how I would be if I met someone named Barney. I would be like, okay, I only know 3 Barneys from the Flintstones, from the dinosaur, and from what was that one with the he worked at jail. It was like that old
Andy Griffith.
TV. Yes, Andy Griffith. There we go. So like those are the only 3 Barneys I know. So if I met, I think I would have that reaction if I met someone named Barney. I'd be like, that's a people name?
Yeah, I've never met someone named Barney.
I haven't. I haven't met a Barney. So there you go. I think after the dinosaur, people probably like press the brakes on that one. They're like, I don't want my kid to be teased about being a dinosaur.
Yeah.
So.
Let's not. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Barney. Actually, most people are probably saying, thank you so much, Barney.
Right.
I don't have to be named that. And if your name is Barney and you're listening to this, that's a people name?
Write in. Tell us what your life is like as someone named Barney. We're curious.
Facts. So, yeah. So, we digress. We are going on tangents, but I like the tangents. So, I like tangents. I don't like geometry.
Tangentially yours. That's how I sign my emails.
Oh, I'm going to start using that. Tangentially yours. I'm surprised I could get that out. So Stanley picks them up. They're already giving us character cues. Stanley is a little bit probably on spectrum a bit. He's very socially awkward with the kids. He says things that they're like, oh, shucks, that's just Stanley. Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, sure. And they go to the farm. And it's interesting because before they had just one scarecrow. Now, as they get to the farm, they realize, holy moly, there's rows of scarecrows, 12 angry scarecrows to be precise.
Yes. And that automatically would throw up my red flags, right? Like, wasn't the one doing a good enough job?
I'd be more concerned about the birds. I'd be like, are we having a bird problem? Hitchcock anybody? Yeah. Do I need to stay hidden? I do not want my eyes plucked out. No, yeah, right? And so, I'd like to keep my peepers. Jeepers, creepers. Where'd you get them peepers? Different movie.
Yes.
Also looks like a scarecrow.
It does.
By the way.
Yeah.
I love that movie. Anyways, so again, digressed. I feel like this is going to be one of those.
Yeah. Starting off.
I'm okay with this. Yeah, it's fun. So we got the Jeepers Creepers scarecrows. I can't talk. It's okay. And Stanley, obviously he like puffs up with pride and he's like, I made all them scarecrows. And, then of course he has to be creepy and followed up with the scarecrows walk at midnight. They're like, so what'd he say? And he's like, nothing, never mind.
Right. I don't know if the book said that he whispered it, but I definitely perceived it that way. It's like, I made those. The scarecrow walks at midnight,
Well, they said he muttered it. So to me, a mutter is like a whisper. Like it's like, scarecrow walks. What? Nothing, huh? Look at them birds. See? And they're like, what birds? He's like, exactly. Exactly.
Birds are gone.
Fun little intro. We're introduced to the scarecrows, the farm. Everything's bumping along. See what I did there because of the bumpy truck?
Yeah. And the goosebumps?
Yeah, right. And Goosebumps. We're bumping along. We meet the grandparents, and they're noticing some awkward things, right? But they, of course, do what kids do and attribute it to age. They're like, they're probably just getting old. Yeah. This is what old people do, right?
Yeah, they're just senile.
Just old people. And that's what happens when you get old. You get weird. Which makes me wonder, what am I going to be like as an old person? Because I'm already hella weird. So.
Yeah. I've weirded up quite a bit since I was a kid, so I don't know what's going to happen from here.
It's going to be like beyond level up weird. Is there a word beyond weird?
Weirder.
Strange. Weirder. Weirder. No, I feel like
Weirdest.
there needs to be like weird on steroids. What that word is, I don't know. Quirky? No.
Quirky's cute.
Eccentric?
Eccentric.
Yeah, I'll be eccentric.
Yeah, that's probably what we'll be.
I'll be eccentrically wacky and a little bit spooky. So,
That goes without saying.
yeah, of course. And, there's awkward things afoot because, of course, grandma won't make her famous pancakes anymore. They have like grandpa won't tell his scary stories anymore. And they're acting kind of scared themselves.
Mhm.
And so the kids are like, "What? That's awkward." And Stanley's acting a little bit more confident. So it's clear there's a shift.
Yes. Something is amiss. Something is rotten in the state of Corntown.
You're saying something's a little corny?
Oh, could be.
So they're, of course, like a little pouty because they were excited, as we would be, right?
Yeah.
You have good memories, fond memories of these experiences that carry them summer to summer.
Mhm.
And then
Everything's
this
different.
summer's different. Yeah. It's like, oh man, I look forward to the pancakes. I look forward to the scary stories, and it's all a good time. And they're actually excited. They don't have a bad attitude about visiting their grandparents.
Yeah.
And so to find out the things that you hold dear, it's like, well, we don't do that around these parts anymore. They're just like, well, this is bullshit. I don't get my screens, and now I don't get my scary stories or the pancakes. Like, what the hell?
Yep. That is bullshit, Grandma.
Grandma. That's bullshit, Grandma. My grandma would hit me with a shoe if I said that to her.
I know.
And, what I like is Stanley mentions that he has this book, but he keeps calling it his superstition book.
Mhm.
But the more you hear about the superstition book, it's like, me thinks this is not a superstition book. Me thinks this is a like witchcraft book.
Yeah. Some sort of spell book.
Yeah, a book of spells. He's got a book of shadows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which honestly makes me want the backstory for this. Where did he find this? Was it just at like an old antique mall in town? I mean,
probably the same place that you get monster blood
Right.
and everything else when people buy spooky things is slappy, and who knows?
Yeah.
Like, there is a wizard of Goosebumps that is out there just like putting these things in the world through their storefront.
I love it.
So
That's such a
the
fun idea.
masks, yeah, everything goes through there.
Yeah.
And yeah, what you don't know, it's RL.
Right. RL Sundries and Gifts.
Oh, I like that. It has a nice little spin to it. It's probably where you got the scarecrows too. So
True.
And, they still obviously have a connection with Stanley. So it's not like he's a complete awkward fellow, because he takes them fishing and they seem to have a good time with him. They're like, let's go fishing. Let's have fun. And what I find interesting is that before they go fishing, he's like, well, the book says I have to walk around the barn 3 times for good luck.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to get a little 300 Junior on you.
Do it.
So to open an altar circle, you're supposed to walk around the circle 3 times.
Ooh.
And that opens the magic of the circle. So
Interesting.
when I read that, 1, I'm like, what is RL researching? And 2, what magic is Stanley opening by doing that?
Interesting.
Now, fun fact, if you walk around in like the opposite direction, so counterclockwise, it's called walking in widdershins, and that is actually bad luck. It opens the opposite energy. So people that are trying to do nefarious things would walk in the opposite direction.
Well,
Like, let's say if you want to summon a demon scarecrow.
Right.
Strike through the scarecrow word. But yeah. Anyways, things you're learning because I'm a weirdo.
Well, no, thank you for telling me, because I would assume that walking in the opposite direction would close the circle and then I'd be fucked. So
it doesn't. You're like, I would have walked the opposite direction to close it. You would think that, right?
I'm doing the right thing. Nope.
You shouldn't be walking in circles,
True.
okay?
True.
No rituals. We here at Listeners Beware do not condone rituals of any kind.
Mm-mm. Even on accident.
Even on accidental rituals. How do you accidentally?
I was just walking in circles. I don't know.
I walked in a circle backwards. I'm so sorry. Well, that's if you've got the altar set up. I think if you walked, I'm just gonna backtrack. I don't even want to continue that thought. Anyways, so so of course Jody is our protagonist. So we have another female, preteen protagonist. Her brother's younger. They seem to get along. Mark's the scaredy pants,
Yeah.
but they seem to mostly get along, which I like. Their
Mhm.
relationship is pretty close. They heckle each other, but it's nothing too intense like we've seen with like bullying in the past.
Yeah. This feels like a real sibling dynamic.
Yeah. And the only bullying behavior that we believe is bullying is coming from Styx, who is Stanley's son. Now, spoiler alert, they realize later on he's not actually bullying them. He's trying to help them. But,
Right.
at first they think it's bullying.
Yeah.
And they're like, gosh, he's always so mean. And he's like, go back home, you city kids. He's really trying to help them. But,
Right.
they think, oh my gosh, he's just being a jerk.
Mm-hmm. He just doesn't want us here, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But no. Sticks.
Yeah.
Sticks to the rescue.
He's sticking it out to help.
High stakes sticks, they call him.
There's nothing soft about him because, he's a country boy. They've got grit.
True grit.
True grit. So, Jody starts to see weird stuff. And I think at some point, I think it's the first night, she looks out her window and sees the scarecrows like writhing around and kind of moving on their stakes like they're trying to get off. And she calls Mark and they both get a little freaked out, but, they can't get to the grandparents. Grandparents are already asleep. When they try to talk to their grandparents about it, the grandparents shut that shit down fast.
Yes.
They're like, don't you talk about it?
It's just the wind.
It's the wind. Don't say it around Stanley.
Yeah. He loved Patrick Swayze.
He's like the wind. So, they go fishing. I think it was like Mark and Stanley go off around the bend to do some more fishing. And Jody ends up hearing something stopping around. And
I think she thinks she sees someone behind a tree or something. And then she sort of convinces herself that it's a scarecrow.
And I think she thinks it sticks, but when she brings it up to
Right.
Stanley, he gets a little freaked out and runs off.
Right.
And she's like, well, it was just sticks. Why is he so, why is that freaking him out?
Mm-hmm.
But even though they've seen the scarecrows wiggling about, she doesn't think that it's the scarecrow. She thinks it's Sticks playing a trick on them, which I would too.
Sure.
In all reality, my first assumption would it be the scarecrows are alive. They're alive.
Right.
Yeah, I would be like, Sticks is a jerk and he's messing with us.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where my head was at most of the book too. I was with these kids. I was like, it's got to be Sticks playing pranks. But then,
well, and I think at some point, I don't know if I'm getting it out of order, but she goes to the barn
mm-hmm.
to confront Sticks, and she's looking for her grandpa, and then she gets locked into the barn, and something's kind of like chasing after her, and she goes to climb out and sees a scarecrow,
mm-hmm.
but it ends up running off or something, and then Sticks comes around the corner, which only makes her think it's him even more so. And she's just like, darn you, Sticks.
Darn you to heck.
They put a little bit of foreshadowing into the scene because while she's in the barn, she sees some torches and kerosene, and she's like, oh, I wonder why that's all laying there.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's a plot device.
Careful, don't trip over the plot device. And yeah, so I flash back to Horrorland, which had a barn scene as well involving bats. And
that's right.
This scene, that was one of my favorite parts of Horrorland. I think it plays much better here. I like the tension of the scene in the barn, and having grown up playing in barns, like, felt very familiar. So
they're really good at writing barn tension scenes.
yeah.
This one was scarier because she was alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know. I like them both. And I'm partial to the barns. So, of course, they decide to do what any kid would do and get revenge, right?
Mhm.
That's like, oh, we got to get him back. We'll scare him back. The idea is dress up Mark as a scarecrow, make Sticks think, oh no, the scarecrows are coming to life, and he'll come to the barn and of course, or to the fields, the cornfields. And so, of course, it's like, oh, I could see so many ways this could go wrong. I'm thinking, this is a good device where it keeps you on your toes because it's like, how is this going to go wrong? Is it going to attack Mark?
Right.
Is it going to what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
And so I like that because when something's predictable, I almost get bored. And some of these can be pretty predictable.
They can, yeah. And actually, the way that this whole scene played out managed to surprise me even still, Like, I thought I knew where it might go. I knew where I didn't want it to go. And then it still kind of came out of left cornfield.
Exactly. Yeah, so for me, it was just one of those things where I enjoy that it wasn't predictable. Like, you could still see the paths it could go, but you didn't know which path it was going to take. And honestly, I liked the path that it took.
Yeah.
She goes to get Sticks, and, sticks and stones may break my bones. And Sticks freaks out to help her.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, of course, Stanley is like, oh no, they're alive, and gets a superstition book. He's like, I can fix this. I can control them. And then we quickly find out, no, you can't.
Yeah.
Because your spell to put them back to sleep didn't work. They're still awake.
Nope. So, and I love the setup of, like, they almost convinced Stanley that none of this is real. It's all good. And then Mark comes running up in the Scarecrow gear, and it's like, oh no, we almost, like, that's where the twist happened. And I was like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah, I do like the twist that they included with that one where it's like, oh, spoiler alert, he thinks you're one of them and you're the leader. So Mark's like scratching his head and doing all these things. And they're like, quick, take off your head, which reminded me of the labyrinth. Little lady, take off your head. And they're all taking off their heads, and you can't throw someone else's head. And these things aren't alive though. So I love that their thought was, if we have them remove their head, they'll all die. But in reality, it's like, oh no, that didn't work. And it's like, well, yeah, because they're not people.
Yeah.
It only pissed the scarecrows off, and then they realized, wait, that one isn't one of us. Betrayed.
Right. He's got a human head under his scarecrow head. He must die.
He must die. And they are going to rip them apart. They start circling them, and it's like, oh no, what are we going to do? We're encircled. They're picking at us. They're pulling at us. All is lost. And then Sticks comes.
With a torch.
Hello, plot device.
Hello there.
And yeah, right. And they're like, oh no. And he just starts lighting them on fire. He's like, burn, baby, burn. Scarecrow Inferno. And they went.
Yes.
They went kaboom. So went up in flames, and off they went. Well, they just, it wouldn't be disintegrate. They incinerated.
They incinerated.
They incinerated. It's a new word. You're welcome, dictionary.
You're welcome, the world.
You're welcome, Grandma Merriam-Webster.
Oh.
See what I did there?
I do see what you did. Yeah, that was good.
Man, I'm so fun.
That was good.
It was a fun tension building book, and I think it kept you on your toes really well, and I enjoyed it. You had little flashback scenes, or not even flashbacks. You had dream sequences. You had Jodie's hallucinating a bit and thinking she sees scarecrows everywhere. And I thought it was good fun.
Mhm.
And they even leave you with a little bit of a, twist ending because there Stanley goes reading his book again. Why Styx didn't set that on fire? Different
Right?
subject. But
Come on, Sticks.
here Stanley still has his book and that big old bearskin rug in the front room. Well, whoops.
Starts to come to life and chase our girl Jody.
Oh, yeah. So,
I do find it interesting that this is the second book in a row with a torch as a plot device. In the last one, the torch was used for evil. In this one, the torch was used for good. So I have to wonder if like the torch lobbyist reached out and they were like, you need to fix the torch perception.
exactly.
Those torch lobbyists, they never shut up.
They never shut up. So, yeah, there was all that happened in the book. I enjoyed the book.
I did too.
I liked it. I thought that out of all the Goosebumps books, this one to me is like one of the solid this is a Goosebumps book.
Yeah. It felt
Hashtag this is my Goosebumps.
it felt so good like reading this one, and I enjoyed it so much.
Yes, exactly. So, how'd you feel about the TV episode?
You know, they kept this one relatively close. They cut out the horses in lieu of bicycles, and there were a few other alterations that were made, I assume, again, because of the torch lobbyists. But I don't really know. I mean, I thought it stuck pretty close to the book. And as much as I like the book, I kind of like the TV episode.
A book to TV episode comparison, obviously they changed certain things, but to me, the things that they changed didn't matter.
Mm-mm. Not like
That
normal.
didn't matter. Yeah, it kept the spirit of the book. It kept the tone. Stanley's weird. Stanley's controlling the grandparents because that's what we figure out in the book, and they keep it in the TV episode, which is what I love. I think they almost kept it word for word too.
Yeah.
That like Stanley brought the scarecrows to life. He only promised to put them back to sleep if things started going his way.
Right.
And so that's messed up.
Mm-hmm.
We'll revisit that in a moment, but they kept that plot device both in book and TV, and I thought that was effective.
Yep.
And I like that they kept it because I think it doesn't soften Stanley. Sometimes we see them softening or over villainizing, and in this way they just left it the way it was and it spoke for itself.
Right. If any character got softened, I guess it was Styx a little bit, but they also didn't have a lot of time to really go into his character too much in the TV episode.
Yeah. I think the TV episode had fun with it too because they didn't call it his superstition book. They called it his rituals book.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, they went straight for it. And I appreciate that because it's true. These aren't superstitions. He's reading like chants and spells and using them to get things to go his way. Again, speaks to his character. And although they tried to build in a line to soften him, which is the first time I think we've seen this in the TV episode where they're not over villainizing. They're actually trying to reduce the character a bit in terms of their severity because Styx says, he loves your grandma and grandpa. He'd never do anything truly mean.
Right.
He means well. And it's like, do we?
It's pretty mean what he's doing.
He's threatening to keep killer scarecrows on the loose if they don't do what he wants. Like, that doesn't sound so he means well to me.
No, not at all.
I'm just going to put that out there.
Yep.
So I do think they tried to soften him.
Yeah, a little bit, but not in the egregious way that the show normally does. Like, I thought all the characters read well and they felt realistic and authentic. And having read the book, I was able to watch for the cues from Stanley, and I really liked his performance. It was subtle, but good. And
yeah.
I mean, I think this is one of the few times where I don't have really any complaints about the acting either. Like, I thought everybody did a decent job in this.
No one was over the top.
No.
If I have to be quite candid, I think the shining star for this episode, like TV episode, was actually Styx.
Yeah, agreed.
I think out of all of the characters, he really just kind of naturally played his well.
Hmm. Yeah,
They all, to your point, though, did a great job. They were solid. It wasn't overacting. It wasn't over the top like we've talked about, the 90s style. It,
yeah.
it felt solid.
Hmm.
Like it translates to even now.
It does. Yeah, yeah. This was, I mean, it wasn't overly silly, and nothing important was really changed. Like I say, that the
Mhm.
changes that they made seemed more practical than to rewrite the story for whatever reason. So
Absolutely. The only thing I wish we had seen that they didn't include, but I wouldn't say it's like a ding against the episode. I just wish it had been in there was the barn scene
yeah,
where,
yeah,
it closes and then but that's hard because that scene is pretty much completely in the dark. So I can see why they would have just said, nah,
right,
not going to bother with that one. But
right.
that one is more of a to be read scene, but that would have been fun.
I agree. I agree with that. But yeah, like I consider me pleased with both outputs of this story. Like it's just a good story. It's got good bones. So like as long as you don't try to change things, you're not going to really go wrong here.
But does it have good bones?
Scarecrows don't. It's got good broomstick.
Straw? Good sticks?
Good sticks. Hey.
Hey! So I enjoyed the TV episode. I know we rarely say that, but
Same.
in this aspect, I think that even with the changes, they were minor, they didn't affect the story, and it actually kept the integrity of what was in the book.
Hmm.
But it's also a good standalone.
Yeah,
You don't need to have read the book to enjoy the TV episode.
absolutely. Yeah. The major variation from the book is that the scarecrows are not killed by fire at the end. They're killed by a what are those things called? A
Oh, yeah. The tractor.
Yeah, like a tractor with
It
sharp
was the
blades.
tiller thing,
Yeah,
the soil tiller,
yeah,
whatever those are called.
yeah. Which I thought was like a pretty good practical way to end it, and it didn't involve having to burn anything, which is probably why
Mm.
they went that route. But it also changed the plot twist at the end of the book, which I thought was also kind of fun. Rather than having the whole book, Stanley's just got one page from it, and he's reading it quietly, and all of a sudden, this mechanical thing comes to life again after killing the scarecrows, breaks through the barn door and comes at the house like full on maximum overdrive. And I thought that that was a fun way to end it.
I like the Maximum Overdrive reference. That was one of my faves.
Yeah, I love that
So,
movie.
huh. I love that we have two different interpretations. I thought he read that and that there was like a leftover scarecrow in the driver's seat because you couldn't see what was actually driving it.
Oh,
But I
interesting.
love your idea more that the spell, like, pretty much possessed animated
Hmm.
the tiller. Like, I like that so much more. Like, screw the scarecrow.
Yeah.
This was a reanimated tiller.
Hmm.
Not even reanimated. An animated?
First animated, then pre-animated.
Whatever. I
Right.
like it.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of it. I like the Maximum Overdrive. Um, with that said, this ending is way darker.
Hmm.
Right? Because in the other one, it's like with the bear, they could probably put to sleep or take it out, set it on fire again. Who
Right.
knows? Like there's ways out. In this case, the whole family's clustered in front of the window, and this tiller is coming at them, which is like Scarecrow just desserts. Like, oh
Right.
yeah, you ate scarecrows with that, and now we're gonna get you with it. So
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely darker. I thought it was more fun than the bear ending, and that might be the only thing that I liked more about the episode than the book.
I know we're getting into technically this was released in May, but we're getting into the fall season. We're now in September. So for me, reading a Scarecrow book is just fun. I'm
Hmm.
like, ew, how
I
festive.
know. It feels like a perfect note to go out on for this season, and also just a great note for where we're at right now in the timeline. I love it.
Yeah. I have a question for you.
Okay.
Why don't scarecrows go to dinner with farm animals?
I don't know.
Because it costs them an arm and a leg.
That's a good one.
How do scarecrows say hello?
I don't know.
Hey. Last one for you. Why are scarecrows so cool?
I don't know.
They're just amazing. Okay. I have one last one, and then I'll stop.
No.
Before we lose all of our listeners. Why did the Scarecrow win an award?
I don't know.
Because he was outstanding in his field. You're welcome.
Yes. I love the random installments of Ashley's dad jokes. I never know when they're coming, but I'm always here for them.
I mean, when it comes to fall, I always got to go with the jokes. I have to go Halloween jokes.
Hell yes.
Happy Halloween. So we're in September. We have scarecrows. I had to. I couldn't resist.
No. I love that.
Now, we've done this with previous books, and I'm curious because we do really like this one and the TV episode so much. Is there anything you would change about this one?
Honestly, nothing comes to mind. No. What about for you?
Oh boy. You know what I would do? I would probably enhance the scene where Mark is the leader of the scarecrows. Because I think, perhaps, it was supposed to be an element of distraction as Styx goes to get the torches.
Yeah.
However, it did not read that way completely. So for me, I would probably tighten that up just a little bit more so that we knew that, hey, oh my gosh, we have a solution. Yay. And then it's not working and Styx went to go do something because it felt almost not effective.
Yeah. And a little bit out of left field too, you know?
It did.
Yeah.
It did. I would have liked to see more from Mark being a scarecrow, even if it was they followed him because they thought he was the leader. And then it's like he turns around, they alter. I don't know. Either enhanced it or just got rid of it.
Right. Yeah, I would have been fine with either one. We didn't need to kill that much time while he went and grabbed the torch. So, yeah, maybe a removal of that scene because it feels like it requires more exposition than we're ever going to get in a few pages.
In a Goosebumps book.
So,
yeah. Yeah, because I mean, in theory, I get it. Like, it's this idea of, oh my gosh, we have hope, we have a solution. Oh no, it didn't work, we're gonna die.
Right.
But I had to put a lot of thought to pull that out of there. I feel like they either needed to kind of expand that a little bit more to make it more clear, or just scrap it. We didn't need it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm still a little shell shocked from pinching horrors. So like whenever this started, I was like, oh, I don't know if I like where this is going, you know?
They're going to get goofy again.
Yeah, I was like, this is not going to go well. I kept expecting for this book to fall apart. And then when it didn't, I was like, yes.
I think they tried to get a little goofy in that moment to relieve the tension, but I think it wasn't necessary. So
my tension was not relieved. My frustration was
I was
implored.
like, okay, so we're going there, are we? Yeah. My sense of dread was like, oh no. And then I was like, okay, that wasn't that long. Yeah. But
that's a good call.
We got a fire ending, so
it was very bright.
But in terms of overall, nothing else would I change. I thought it was so good. I just think that one small scene was like, probably could have done without if we're nitpicking. I think ultimately it's still so solid and like still one of my tops.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see how this plays out in our next episode.
Speaking of our next episode, what are we doing in our next episode? I feel like I'm Dr. Dre here. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Yeah, I will chill till then. I'll be your Snoop any day, Dre.
Oh my. D-O-double-G.
That's, you know me. Yeah, all this is getting cut.
I'm down with OPP. No, you got to leave it in. All right,
okay.
because that's the 90s children in us.
That is true. That is true.
So
for our next episode, it's our first annual Bumps Bracket, baby.
woo!
What we're going to do is we're going to go through all the books that we've read in season 1 and try to figure out which one is our favorite overall.
And I think, to be fair, we'll do brackets on TV episodes and books separately. And then, I'm excited. I kind of have to do a little bit of sit down with all of them to organize it ahead of time because, I'm curious to see, now that I've reread these as an adult, I'm curious to see myself. I knew where I was as a kid, what was my favorite. And now that we've read the first, what is this, 20?
Mm-hmm.
I am curious, as I force them to duke it out, who's going to be my top or top 3.
I can already tell you that my top 3 is probably different than what it was as a child. Young Gary was foolish.
Young Gary has been more exposed to the world of horror.
I have.
Welcome to the dark side.
But what a great introduction to horror this series was.
Well, the exciting part is, as we've released episodes and we've kind of hinted at what we think about them in the text, like the captions of the episodes, to see people's reactions and responses, because people don't always agree. Like, I think it was it Deep Trouble that we were just completely like, no, absolutely not. Or no, it was the Bees one.
It was the Bees one, yeah.
Where we're like, oh, this was not our favorite, and people were like, what? I loved that one. How could you? So I like that.
Yeah, and I removed all those people from my life. No,
you did not.
I didn't. I mean, like, I just put out a general statement. I didn't even say how I felt about it, that in general the Bee book is frowned upon by most readers. And do I get that? Not really. That said, people took offense.
They sure did.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of putting this clause out there that, as a reminder, these are just our personal opinions.
Right.
We are not the end all and be all of these books and TV episodes. We're just putting our opinions out there. So please do let us know if you like something that we didn't. Or if you have your own ideas of, like, I think it would be better if they had done this. Like, we are always open to hearing feedback from our listeners, as long as it's kind. Don't be a troll.
Yeah, don't be a troll. Don't be rude.
Don't be rude.
Yeah.
No need to be mean. Because off to the Mirrorland you will go.
That's right. And nobody wants to be there.
Well.
maybe some people.
I think some people might. That's the reason they're in the Mirrorland, because their attitudes don't jive. So they might be, oh, yeah, send me to Mirrorland. I want to go to Mirrorland.
Bunch of dicks.
A bag of dicks. Anyways, so I don't think that's very Lizzie Borden-ish. No, wait, she killed her parents. That's very, who's the one who did that? I don't want to Google that.
Lorena Bobbitt.
Yes, that's very Lorena Bobbitt-ish. She had her bag of dicks. Anyhow, what a wonderful episode. I'm glad we went on all these different tangents. I had a great time.
I did too.
Sincerely yours, Tangential Ashley. Ooh, I said it.
You said it.
All right. Thank you to everyone for tuning in to Listeners Beware. Are you looking for more spooky podcast content? Check out 3 Haunted Podcast at 3hauntedpodcast.com, where Ashley and friends talk about all the things that go bump in the night.
And if you're looking for something that's not totally spooky, check me out at the Wax Nostalgic Network, www.waxnostalgicnetwork.com. And also follow us on the socials, Listeners Beware Podcast. That's on Instagram and Facebook. Interact with us. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you.
Until next time.
They're alive. I don't know why I said that like Christopher Walken. They're alive.
They're alive?
They're alive? Question mark? Color me pleased all over.
Color me pleased all over.
I don't know if that's a great expression. Maybe I should change that.
Sounds a little odd, but I like it. Keep it.
Okay, we'll keep it.
Color me, please. I'm going to start using that. Color me, please, all over. People are going to be like, excuse me? What are you talking about? I don't know. Just go with it.
I never know what I'm talking about. That's why I have a podcast.
I'm going to make a scarecrow that's like super fabulous. It's going to be like blinged out in rhinestones. And I'm going to call it Gaga of the Fields. Maybe I'll give it a meat dress. I don't know. We'll see. I'll let you know. Anyhow.
That will bring the birds in, though.
Maybe.